Well, moving forward a little bit, my first interaction with you, I believe, and we've talked about this briefly, was at the Career Center in Decatur, where I had just graduated from University of North Alabama and was doing odd jobs, and no one needed their grass mowed because it was November. And I went to the Career Center kind of at the end of my rope with no job, trying to figure out what I'm doing. And you were the only person who worked in that type of environment, the career, type of, hey, let's sit down and talk about your resume kind of people. Like, I went and I set an appointment, and they were like, well, you probably need to talk with George Lair. And I'm like, okay, cool. I don't know anything about you, but you were the first person that worked in a quote-unquote professional environment, I guess is what I'm trying to say, that didn't shoot down the fact that I was going for music. You actually gave real-world practical advice. Look, it's going to be hard. Here's some options. Here's some things you can do in the meantime. I see your resume. This is what you've done. Maybe you can go for this. You actually gave some direction that made some sense. So publicly, thank you again. Man. But what did that experience? I know it's kind of outside the music industry, but not really, because we all have to get where we're going.
Right. That was one of the most satisfying jobs, and could also just leave you hurting when you left, because I was at a place where I had the opportunity to help young people, give them some direction. I did a lot of research as to what jobs were up and coming, and I worked with people with their resumes. I had I could help them with a Pell Grant. I also had a Workforce Investment Act federal scholarship, 2-year scholarship program that I could get them signed up for. And it was, I have always tried to be an encourager in any position that I've been in. And after leaving the Hall of Fame, I got that job 3 weeks to the day after I was laid off from the Hall of Fame.
Oh, wow.
And at that time, state was cutting budgets, and I was not vested in the retirement system. I was laid off before I became vested. So that was a real opportunity for me, and enjoyed it incredibly. I had a boss there that she pushed me all the time to do something that I didn't think I could do. She'd say, you can do this. I know you can do this.
Man, those kind of people, we need more of them.
Right. People that can see things about yourself that you can't see.
I've totally benefited from that. And I mean, again, thank you, because you were somebody, I had recently been laughed at in a job interview over my music degree in Huntsville, like prior to our conversation. Man. So I was really beat down. I mean, the guy was like, during the interview, he's like, what do you think you're going to do with a music degree? And he's like, he just had this look on his face, real condescending in the way he did it, too. And it was just like, it hit me wrong. And I just stood up, stuck my hand out, shook his hand, and I said, apparently not work for you. Thank you for your time, sir, and walked off. I wish I remember. I'm kind of glad I don't remember who it was, because I might hold a grudge on that. But it wasn't a road I was supposed to go down, apparently.
Right.
But for people to be like that when you're younger and you're trying to chase a dream, even though it doesn't fit status quo, and not everybody understands it because it's in a creative space. I mean, I've been doing this. My studio turned 10 years old last October, and I recently went full-time music. And I'm not rich by any means, but I'm doing okay. Right. And I'm enjoying it, and I'm growing every day, and every month is a little better.
I had people come in who had long hair, tattoos, had nose rings and different piercings. And I tried to be I had long hair for a lot of my life in different occupations that I was able to do that in. And I just told them that they had to realize that there were going to be certain limitations as to job possibilities. But there are jobs out there that want someone who has that particular look.
Well, generally, someone in a creative space, you want that person working for your company who is creatively minded, because if you've got a problem, you need somebody who that thinks outside the box a little, that is more likely to figure out a solution.
Right.
See, a lot of people don't really think about that, but that is a huge asset to a company or a business. So having someone that can think outside the normal a little bit and have a creative solution.
The time I was there, Decatur was going through a period of massive layoffs at a lot of their plants. And they were laying off men who were 55 and 60 years old. And they would come in there, and I actually had several men to break down and cry because they could not see a future because of their ages. But I tried to work with them on their resumes to highlight the things that employers are going to be looking for. And one of those things is showing up for work regularly, having a strong work ethic. And a lot of young people don't have that. These guys had gone in straight out of high school. They knew somebody at the plant. They didn't even have to do a resume. They started working when they were 19 years old. And this was the first time that they'd ever had to look for a job. So they were very frightened, and I was
understandably so
able to, I hope, relieve some of their tension and help them with resumes and job search and everything.
Well, I had to essentially lie on a couple of job applications and leave off my degree because people wouldn't hire me because I had a degree. Because it was summer of 2008 when I graduated, when the economy crashed. No one was looking to spend money. I was just like, look, I just need to wait tables, mow your grass, whatever we can do, And
I've done that myself.
It's just
even with a college degree. I've worked at a wholesale greenhouse. I've washed dishes. I've I had a video store, had a T-shirt shop out in Austin. I worked for the IRS. I had a liberal arts major, and I feel like that gave me a little bit of a background in being able to be a handyman, to think outside the box, like you were saying. Whereas a lot of people went to school, and they went to school for a particular degree. It was almost like a trade school.
Yeah.
A lot of people
stayed in a lane.
Business and things like that, which we all need those people, but I didn't take that route. At the Hall of Fame, I had a great opportunity to meet a lot of people at our induction banquets, and also people who would come in that we would be doing displays for. I've been blessed with all of the, what we say, stars that I've had an opportunity to interact with over the years. In fact, I have drawn up a couple of sheets of paper, that list all the musicians and all the producers and engineers and session players, broken it out like that I've met in the past. And sometimes I have to pinch myself to.
I need to be more diligent about writing stuff down because, I've been at it for a while, but I'm already, definitely not as long as you, but I've already started to forget some stuff, and it's like, oh, yeah, that happened. I worked with that guy. Somebody will remind me, and I'm like, oh, yeah. And I can only imagine decades more time has passed.
Right.
And it would be that much easier to forget.
I missed the opportunity to get any autographs when I was here. You didn't want to ask people for autographs.
Yeah, that's always a weird thing. Sometimes I've got a lot of autographs, but I've got people I work with sign my canvases I hang on the wall and all that, and that's cool because it's not like, hey, can I get your autograph kind of thing.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'd rather have a memory to share and a photo and things like that. So
I look back on it now, and gosh, there were so many people that I did get a few pictures. I wish I'd gotten more. I got a good picture of myself with Levon Helm.
Oh, wow.
And I'm real proud of that one. But I also worked with Glenn Fry and got to know him quite well. And in fact, I probably got to know Glenn better than anyone else that I worked with.
So what was he like?
He was a thinker. He read books. We exchanged books and discussed.
Like, what kind of books was he into? Were you?
I wish I could remember the particular title of the one.
Let's move forward to today. That's a big fast forward button, I realize, but
it is.
It is kind of one of those things that you don't really have a moment where it's really cool to ask for an autograph or a photo or something like that. Sometimes just being cool and being in the moment, and too playing the long game of, my goal of being an assistant engineer or assistant producer or whatever like that was to be the lead engineer and lead producer. And being cool and not fanning out has paid off for me because people don't get weird around me. I mean, I don't fan out anyway. I don't that kind of thing with people just like, you're around somebody famous. It's irritating to me.
Oh yeah.
And I've just never been that way. I mean, but yeah, just being cool is sometimes more important because they'll remember, oh yeah, I remember you. They may come back and record again. You may have another interaction down the road, and where it may be okay to ask, hey, would it be cool for a photo or for a autograph or something like that?
Some of the things that I've done more recently, I've done some volunteer work at the Hall of Fame. When Dixie Griffin was there, I formed an advisory committee that we tried to come up with ideas to make money for the Hall of Fame because their budget was cut. And one of the things I did was a question and answer series with some drummers. 5.
That was so cool. You had Roger Clark and had Milton Sledge,
Mickey Buckins.
Yeah, Mickey Buckins. And I'm trying to think of who all else you had. Did you have Roger Buckins? No, you had.
I couldn't get Roger, and Jerry Kerrigan was signed up, but he got the flu.
Yeah, he couldn't be there,
so I couldn't get him. I got. All of a sudden, let's see, Bebop Evans.
Yeah, Bebop. That's who else I was thinking
of. And, fellow that lives down in Louisiana now.
Not Owen Hale, but...
Owen Hale.
Was it Owen Hale?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Owen told me that he was so moved that on the way up, he actually came to tears thinking that he was finally going to be appreciated and recognized for some of the work that he had done.
See, I mean, these guys, there's so many people that have been involved in the history of the music and the present time of this town that it's easy to overlook people. And that's the main motivation of why Dan and I started this thing is to really interview not only the people that have been recognized, but maybe get a different side of the story from those guys that what they don't normally talk about, but recognize people that just for whatever reason, unintentionally, really. I mean, some people just get the spotlight more. I mean,
we did a Q&A with them, and then I had 2 drum sets set up inside the museum, and a keyboard and a bass player. It was a really high event.
It was a fantastic event. I remember being at it, and we need to do more of that. And I remember a lot of people saying, man, we got more drummers that need to be recognized. And, what about bass players? And then you start going down the list because, I mean, my main instrument's guitar, but I play several instruments. But guitar players and singers, they tend to get more recognition for whatever reason. I guess it's personality. We're more out front.
Right. I had intended to do a whole series of, beginning with drummers. I was going to do background vocalists, engineers, and do some
Maybe poke that bear again and try and see if we can get that off the ground again. Because that's a need.
Yeah,
but, I mean,
it really is
for people like Owen. I mean, it was that moving for him that he got a little weepy about it.
Right.
Well, that matters. That really matters. That people that have spent their life doing something that has propelled the careers of so many people. I mean, he was an excellent drummer, played on, conversation with Milton Sledge I had a while back, there was like 4 or 5 drummers that were the top call guys: Owen, Milton, Roger Clark, and Roger Hawkins, and I'm leaving somebody out, I think. But it was a few people that were really your top guys, and Owen is listed in that.
Right. Another thing I did out there was talking about recognition. Jazz artists have not been recognized, or they were recognized. They were internationally famous in the 30s and the 40s. But today, no one knows who they are. And so I put together a little booklet on Jazz Legends of Alabama.
I would love to see that. I'm a jazz fanatic, by the way.
Out at the Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
I still have a few copies left.
Okay, I need to go get that because, the birthplace of W.C. Handy. Father of the blues. He's associated a lot with Memphis because he lived in Memphis for a while. But, we have the W.C. Handy Festival.
Right. And
it's ironic that blues and jazz has kind of gotten overshadowed, but it kind of makes sense too. Because Muscle Shoals area is known for soul and country songwriters and southern rock.
Well, I would always tell people there's a triangle of Nashville, Memphis, and Muscle Shoals.
Absolutely.
And in Nashville, of course, you've got country music. In Memphis, you've got soul music. And I always said that Muscle Shoals combined those with gospel music. So we, in a way, we fed Nashville and Memphis with musicians, with producers, with publishers. If you look at the early people that got into Nashville, it was the original Fame Gang.
David Briggs, Buddy Killen,
Jerry Kerrigan.
It's a long list.
Yeah, a long list.
Well, like songwriters, too. Nashville's definitely a songwriter town, and more so than here, just per capita, more population, right?
Although Wishbone has done great.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. It's just a bigger population. But here, it's a ton of songwriters. They may have a publishing company based in Nashville and travel back and forth, or maybe they moved from here to there, but there's a lot of songwriting here.
I think there are 4 songwriters that came out of Wishbone that have gone on to be inducted into the Country Music Songwriters Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Let me tell you about one other project that I've worked with at the Hall of Fame, and that was doing interviews with some of the early band members that were in bands in the late 50s and early 60s that they brought in Roger Hawkins, David Hood, to play in their bands, they either got married and couldn't go on into a music career, or got jobs that meant more to them at the time. But I've done some great interviews with a lot of those folks, and I hope at some point to do something with those interviews.
Yeah, you absolutely should. Right. I mean, are you planning to, is it audio or book or?
It's audio and video.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you definitely need to do something with that because that's really cool stuff.
Yeah. So now I'm involved with doing tours.
Yeah, let's talk about that. That's Muscle Shoals VIP Music Tours.
Right.
You just handed me this card.
I do individual tours. I do couples. I do large groups. I've done a step-on tour guide for buses coming from Europe. I work closely with Colbert County Tourism and have done a few things with Lauderdale County Tourism. In fact, I have a tour coming up this Saturday with some people from Switzerland that Colbert County Tourism has set that up with me as their tour guide. We're going to start doing trolley tours once or twice a month. We're going to go to 3 studios and the Hall of Fame.
Which studios?
It's going to vary.
Okay, so it's just whoever can do.
We're going to do like a Sheffield series that would be 3614, the original Muscle Shoals Sound, the second Muscle Shoals Sound here at Cypress Moon, and maybe Peanut Montgomery's museum.
Yeah, I need to go check that out.
That would be the Sheffield part. Then out in Muscle Shoals, we would do Fame, Wishbone, and
maybe East Avalon or
East Avalon's not really set up that much for touring.
No, it's small and it's behind a lot of buildings.
Yeah.
It's a cool place though.
But there are other sites over there that I can point out to people. But I'm looking forward to that getting started. I've been contacted by Deschler High School 40th reunion group about doing their reunion. Sheffield High School, I'm having my 50th reunion, and I'm volunteered to do a tour with them. I have a Facebook page, Muscle Shoals VIP Music Tours, and have received 5-star ratings from all of my participants. I have a couple out in California that they have recommended me to a couple from Seattle that came a couple of months ago, and I was pleased to be able to show them around. And then I have 4 people from California coming next month that were also recommended by them. So I get a lot of recommendations, and I try to not only show them the studios and the Hall of Fame, but also introduce them to some of the music around here, either at Champy's or Flobama or wherever that music might be, and introduce them to the musicians.
That's super cool. All right, so if somebody wants to find out, just the best way to be to go to Facebook and go to Muscle Shoals VIP Music Tours.
Right.
Just search for that.
I can also be texted at 256-627-0103.
All right, and George does great tours. Judy Hood, David Hood's wife, also does tours too, and they kind of have a different angle on the way they're doing the tours. So if you wanted to come to Muscle Shoals and do some tours, I suggest coming for 2 or 3 days. Right. Get you a room maybe at the Marriott, or maybe Coldwater Inn or somewhere nice, right, and have a few days to spend around, because not only music, but you've got Helen Keller home, Ivy Green's cool to go to. There's a lot of things to go do and see and experience while you're here. Yeah, Tom Hendrix's Wall. That's definitely something to go to. And embarrassingly enough, I haven't been to it. I mean, it's just something I need to check out. So, yeah, be sure and check out Muscle Shoals VIP Music Tours. George Lair's very knowledgeable about this.
I try to share personal experiences when Jimmy Buffett was here, and Levon Helm, and Glenn Fry, Jerry Wexler, different people that I associated with. And some of the stories, just, working here at the studio that nobody else is you're not going to read in a book.
Right, and that's what I love about it because, I mean, I geek out about it personally. And, all of us guys that love music and music history and just discovering new music for that matter, especially the guys that work around the recording studio life, it's fascinating, and it's fun to know. And, man, thank you so much. I guess we'll wrap this up. This has been a joy sitting here and talking with you, and we could go on and on and on.
Oh,
you've been
really
involved with so much. There's tons of music happening in this town now that it's...
Right, I'm so optimistic about the future because we have a lot of young bands coming in. The studios are active now. I was afraid at one point that Muscle Shoals was just going to be a documentary, that it was just going to be a museum. And today, that's not the case at all. Very active and exciting scene.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic about the music industry in general. And maybe, I don't know, maybe that's foolish of me. I don't think so. I'm optimistic about it because there's so many people. It's a community, and there's a lot of people really trying to look out for each other. And it's really like the flood that happened here, recently. It was really nice seeing the community pull together and helping each other, and just showing up and unannounced, like, "Hey, here I am. What do you need?"
Right.
And that was a scary moment. Of course, water never got in the building down here, but it was close.
Right.
And, I mean, that mattered. I mean, the community aspect of it is really, really kind of grown, and I'm trying to think of the right way to say it. But, yeah, I'm optimistic, too. So
it was so nice being right on the Tennessee River here, taking breaks, going outside, I forgot to tell one story about Jimmy knew a crop duster who he and his son, Jimmy could call them up, and they would come and do a show out here and fly so low to the water that I promise I saw their wheels actually touch the water at one point.
Wow.
And that was very impressive to Jimmy Buffett and some of the bigger stars that Jimmy would call these people, the flyers in for,
Wow, that's really cool. Well, let's go see what the river's doing now.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, guys. This concludes part 2 of our interview with George Lair. Thanks to him for joining us and letting us pick his brain and sharing with us his wealth of knowledge of Muscle Shoals. If you haven't noticed, we've gone to a weekly format. So thanks to each of you for tuning in and following us on social media. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. We're also on several streaming services, including iTunes, YouTube, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud. Thanks again to each of you for listening. Please tell your friends, and please continue to leave us ratings and reviews. We very much appreciate your feedback. Peace. Stay groovy.